Welcome to Talking in Stations. I am Matterall. Why my face is so small. All right, it's time for Talking in Stations, the daily show. We're going to go through a couple of stuff. Been a slow news day as far as the war goes that we know of, but we're going to talk about wormhole addictions today. Triglavian attacks happening today in Perimeter. That's interesting. We have to look at a timeline project that is being continued by Ashtarothi, who we have with us today. And we'll talk about some stuff coming up with the patch notes. There's a balance pass that helps Eden calm. Those are your stories for the day. How are you doing, Ashtarothi?
Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, and it's been a pretty good day. It's been relatively quiet, not all quiet on the
Weather's good.
Western Front, kind of. As long as you're not, going through Perimeter.
Well, we also have some new faces today. I'll go ahead and show them now. You probably remember from last week a new friend, Strata Malislav. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How's it going with you?
We had a little trouble with him because some things happened. Maybe he'll explain that in a minute. Also with us, a new face, but someone that's familiar to Talking in Stations. This is Shakeen. How are you, Shakeen?
Oh, I'm doing very well, Matterall.
Shakeen is, if I'm not mistaken, an industrial miner, and he's usually in the south of the map. Just industry.
I don't find mining very stressful. I just like what they produce.
Okay, got it. That's good to be clear. Then, of course, Gregorian's with us today. How you doing, Gregorian?
I'm doing all right.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's get in here. So, wormhole evictions. We don't have graphics for this because wormholes are hard to get pictures of. But there's a couple things going on there. The first one is wormholes have moved to. I miswrote this. Gregorian, what do you know about this?
Well, three groups are working together to evict the home hole of Singularity Syndicate, Hard Knocks, Laserhawks, and Wormhole Society.
Wormhole Society.
I just realized what this is. I know exactly what's going on. Well, not exactly, but like. Singularity Syndicate is an organization that has been knocking around wormhole space, especially in the last year or so, that doing many evictions, including both mine and Einstein-Rosen brigades. But it appears as if some of the other bigger players of wormholes have banded up to what's good for the goose.
It's good for the gander. So,
well,
right.
Those are also groups which do a lot of evictions, and during the big wormhole war earlier this year, SYNDE was aligned with Hard Knocks.
Singular Syndicate? Is that who SYNDE is?
Yeah, SYNDE is Singularity.
So there was some confusion because they were supposed to be friends, and here they're being evicted by their friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't really been entirely up on wormhole politics for the past year or so since I moved out of wormhole space, but earlier this year they were aligned with Hard Knocks in the big wormhole war that happened.
Yeah.
So something must have changed.
Yeah, we have
I mean, I've been tracking them for like the last year or two, and they have been. I mean, in a way of a lot of other organizations that are trying to be big and strong, they end up building up enemies in a laundry list of history. I remember when, more and more as they get kicked around, people are offering to help out or interested in engaging against them. If you make it a habit of evicting people all day, then that ends up eventually arraying your enemies against you.
Yeah, evictions are one of the main things that they like doing, but I'm not sure this is it because they're being evicted by people who don't have a problem with evictions.
That's true, but I mean, like, what I'm saying is that they've slowly gained a reputation of being not really great neighbors around wormhole space, and so these other more established or these these older, like, I guess longer named organizations, as it were, maybe taking exception to that, or like cleansing their own, as it were. I don't know. I was not aware of this turn of event. I just know that there's been, Singularity Syndicate has been very, very active in attacking all kinds of places in wormhole space in the last year.
Yeah. Back when I was living in wormhole space, my old corp, Squid Squad, went on a few ops with them every couple weeks or so, and they were fun people to fly with.
Mm-hmm. So we don't have a reason. We don't have a why, but we do know what's going on. So I'll just read that. Hard Knocks citizens, Laserhawks, and Wormhole Society have begun the initial stages of an eviction process in J172502, which is currently controlled by Singularity Syndicate with a combined force of 150 to 200 pilots. The size of this fleet is expected to grow in the coming days. A source from Hard Knocks confirmed that this is indeed a full eviction of Singularity Syndicate. In wormhole space, full evictions are typically reserved for grudges, either long or short, between two groups or organizations, or lucrative financial purposes. This is in contrast to a content Astra House, which is used to force a fight from another group and leave when the fighting is complete. The source from HK did not wish to comment at this time for reasons behind the evictions, but Singularity Syndicate CEO Cyrus Kurush stated that they are in full preparatory phase for their defense and will work diligently to run interference on the enemy coalition's attempt to maintain whole control on two different static wormholes. The final timer for Singularity Syndicate's Fortizar are expected to be Saturday evening USTZ at approximately 2300 UTC and to 5 Eve time, so 5 a.m. Eve time. So there's your report.
Yeah, they live in a C4 wormhole, which it can be an advantage and a disadvantage, but it has two static wormholes. One of the advantages is that it's easier to defend because the invading force has to control multiple entrances.
Got it. So there's okay, thanks. Right. There's a second wormhole eviction that's happening, which is apparently a mercenary, or a group has been paid to evict a different group, and that is a whole control has been paid to evict foxholers. Do we have any additional information on that one?
I don't know of any additional information.
Okay.
I do not, but I did want to speculate on the Singularity one.
You want more speculation? All right. Singularity.
I did want to say, like, so one of the things I think about is, as we are like deep in, this time of drought, this time without, so everybody's become very creative about how to harness wealth. Well, as I said, Singularity Syndicate has been making a pretty big name for themselves about going around and popping, knocking over wormholes in, for the last couple of years, which have no asset safety. So it's a really good way to make a lot of money all at once. And so this could, in fact, be a case of there's always a bigger fish, and they've just let the jackpot build up, or at least that's what they're hoping.
Yeah. So one of my people who I know in SYNDE said that it doesn't look like they're trying to collect loot, and it just looks like they all banded together to just kill their stuff, not just collect loot.
I mean, it's either righteous or greed, so I don't know which one is worse for Syndicate.
Well, someone else said, who's not in SYNDE, said that his thought is that it's to prove a point, is what he said.
Right, and that's what I was saying. Like,
sure.
these other three organizations are very well-established wormhole groups, whereas this group, Singularity Syndicate, is less well-known, but very strong and has gotten relatively well-established recently. So this may be a bit of, like, playground proving, to...
Yeah, so you're...
Just try to show him he's not king of the wormholes,
So you're suggesting that it's to prevent them from getting any rivals that come up, from coming up to challenge the dominance of Hard Knocks? knocking the next upcoming potential challenger down before he's a threat. Is that what you're
Right.
suggesting?
Right. Just to so like basically to firmly establish that yes, there is room for people to come and do stuff and be a badass in wormhole space, but watch out because the old guard is still watching, and we will ensure that we get you will remain one peg below us.
I mean, just purely based on statistics, if you look at the size of these entities, Hard Knocks alone are 3 times the size of Singularity. So, I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of alts, but I'm sure it's a lot of alts on both sides.
Yeah, I'm not just asking why any one of these guys would want to go against Singularity Syndicate, because it seems pretty remarkable that all 3 of them would agree to work together to do it.
Okay, so we have a specialist here, Tiberius, does a lot of wormhole work for TIS. How you doing, Tiberius?
Excellent.
Didn't hear you, unfortunately. Nope, not coming through. Check your... There you go.
How about now?
Yep.
How about now? All right. Sorry. Hi,
Good,
how are
man.
you
We're
guys
just
doing?
talking about Hard Knocks versus Singularity Syndicate. You want to give us a lowdown?
Yeah, so Hard Knocks, I don't know how much you've said, but I'll just kind of reiterate from what I know. Hard Knocks Singular is Hard Knocks, Laserhawks, and Vita. Violence is the answer, which is the executor corp of Wormhole Society. They're currently sieging Singularity Syndicate. When I spoke to a source in Hard Knocks, they would not comment as to the reasoning behind it, but they did confirm that this is a full eviction. So they're burning everything to the ground. All the structures are going to die. Everything that pops out is dying. Everything. So typically, what's interesting is that typically Hard Knocks doesn't do this unless they've been A, bat phoned, or B, if they spearhead these types of evictions. This is typically reserved for grudge matches. So the little information that I do have is that, and this is all conjecture, is that they are, this has something to do with, this possibly has something to do with Singularity Syndicate's associations in the past with other wormhole groups, and possibly as well because they are possibly their eviction spree as well, because Singularity Syndicate has actually been going on a pretty hefty eviction spree over the past year or so, ever since they participated in the eviction of TD Sen. So again, my assumption is is based on conjecture. I don't have an actual source or piece of information, but of the little pieces that I can put together, that would be my best guess, is that Singularity Syndicate did something to piss Hard Knocks off, and that's their casus belli for this eviction.
I kind of feel like
Is it
it feels like the
is it possible to say that?
Strata, go ahead.
Sorry, is it possible to say that they've been evicting more people than anybody else recently, and there's been bad blood built up in the entire community?
I wouldn't agree with that, because there's a couple of other groups that have been operating in less in the limelight than Singularity Syndicate has been. And they've been, I would say that there's other groups that have evicted an equal, if not more amount than Singularity Syndicate, just not as loudly. So I don't think that has much to do with it, but that's my personal opinion. And I couldn't possibly comment on the full reason of it.
Okay.
I think your speculation matches my speculation, so we're pretty much good to go.
All right. Well, thanks, Tiberius, for jumping in and saving us, and for writing that great report. Very concise.
So Tiberius, what do you know about the Foxholers eviction that's also going on now?
I have been getting sporadic pieces of information on that. I know that I know that it's currently being evicted by wholesale. It's kind of interesting that they would go after foxholers this early because foxholers was part of the Frigate Hull Coalition back in March and April after TD SYNDE was evicted. If you remember, the Frigate Hull Coalition was a group that formed a multiple wormhole group that multiple different wormhole groups formed a coalition in response to the emerging threat that was Interhell, Hard Knocks, and Laserhawks. And it was spearheaded by TD SYNDE after they were evicted in order to try to get revenge. So Hard Knocks went and basically evicted everyone who was in on the Hard Knocks eviction whenever they got counter evicted by Initiative whenever they invaded TD SYNDE. So they went and got the revenge on that. So it's interesting that they would get evicted less than a year later again. So my guess is that this is either for content or this is for some kind of grudge, because unfortunately
we know Whole Control was paid. That was one of the things that foxholers told us.
So that leads me to believe that it's probably some kind of grudge. Go ahead.
So we have the CEO of Singularity Syndicate in public voice. If we want to drag him to give his thoughts.
Oh my.
Yeah, I'll drag Cyrus up here.
All right, Cyrus, you're on air. Be good. How are you? It's nice to meet you.
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, so I mean, can I get up to speed about what's been told about the eviction, and I can give my thoughts?
All right, for the third time we'll review it, but Tiberius, it's all right. No.
Just really quick. Basically, just the fact that the three different groups are working together to evict you. Just basically what's been part of the public announcement about it. But we've been speculating broadly about the causes or whatnot. But honestly, anything that you want to say to it would just be contributing. Sure.
I mean, causes I'm pretty sure are going to get told one day or another, but we've used some less than savory tactics before in PvP, like dropping caps on people and rolling people in. And I'm sure sometimes our spurging on Praise Bob and other discords has caused a lot of people to look at us in a negative light. And it's something that was, I guess you could say, a long time coming. I mean, is it deserved? Maybe. I mean, it's never a good thing to be, let's say, a C4 Corp and rolling people in and dropping caps. So I knew one day this was going to come. And I mean, good on the guys who came to do it, because that's not something that in general should be accepted, no matter who you are. Has it happened to us? Yes. Have we done it? Yes. I just hope that we keep together as a group, move into a new hole, and get back to PvPing with, I guess, a little badge or a little chip on our, a little humbler, and realize that I can't just, it's not all fun and games. You can't just do what you like, push enough buttons, and you'll have 300 people in your home in no time.
Wow, you sound very reasonable. What's going on here?
I mean, what do you want me to say? Gur HK Gur Laserhawks that you're here. What's the point?
That's it.
I've done, like I said, I've done things that a lot of people, myself included, if it was done to me, I'd go, Gur, I don't like these people. These guys are terrible, and we should evict them. And good on HK and Laserhawks for doing it. We did a few things that were dirty, kind of deserved the impending eviction. Humbled a bit, and hopefully in our next hole we keep the good fights going and learn a lesson moving forward.
Right. That's you clicking there, just so you know. So do you already feel like this is a fait accompli? Like, are you going to be able to resist the forces mounted against you?
I mean, we've prepared if a group that was roughly our size, maybe 2 times our size, came to evict us. But when we were discussing our defense plans many months ago, we were thinking, what's the way to put this? You can only spend so much money on preparation. I can spend enough money to put 2,000 ships on grid, but to do that, I've got to cripple everything else that I do. I gotta, for example, have less money available for SRP or for operations that we want to do. And at some point, you got to draw the line and say, okay, I'll prepare for 100, 150 enemies in my wormhole. If there's more than that, I got to just wash my hands and say, we prepared for what we're comfortable preparing for. If there's more than that, then there's more than that. We go for plan B.
And one of the challenges of wormhole space is that you can't necessarily just sino people into the hole that you're in, right? So right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Cyrus, but HK's probably got your 2 statics door stopped, which means that they have a ship on the other side basically ready to close the hole instantaneously if somebody tries to plus through the wormhole and scan down the chain to get people in. Which essentially prevents you from getting any reinforcements in. So if they come in with a fleet of 200 to 300 people and you can only undock 50 to 60 guys at any one given time, that's a no-brainer win for the attackers on a large regard there.
The one addendum to that is, frig holes are something that cannot be rolled. What's the word? And that is one way that you can get people in, but you can only get people in interceptors. So if you don't have the ships to give them, it's not reasonable to ask them to come. Like, you can get 300 interceptors into your hole, but what are you going to do with a fleet of 300 interceptors?
Right. So if you don't have the ships and you don't have the pilots, in a lot of regards, you end up getting your SOL in a large regard.
So this happens this weekend, right? On Saturday?
Yeah, the final timer should be this Saturday.
Well, any other questions for Cyrus? Thanks for joining us, by the way. Cool.
Oh, more than happy.
Just out of curiosity, so you said that because of your tactics, this is what has come about you. If you know that this is the consequence, is this going to change your plans moving forward from here beyond just relocation?
Yes and no. So one of the things about wormhole space is that if you live in a C4 like we do, it's generally frowned upon, one, to use capitals. And then to also roll people in is generally not thought of as a good thing to do. And we had done both of those things. However, in other classes, let's say C5 space, it's the norm to drop capitals because both sides are capable of bringing capitals. And by the nature of C5 space, bringing the mass or bringing the number of ships required to field capitals in a heavy armor fleet is going to cause the hole to collapse behind you anyway. So that's viewed differently in C5 space than it is in C4 space.
So you guys are the bad boys of C4 space, it sounds like.
I can't speak for what people think of us, but I can say that we've used some tactics that if you ask somebody if that was the right thing to do, they would 100% tell you no. Did it seem like the right thing to do at the time? We were thinking it from the point of view of why not? It might be fun to try, but hey, this is what happens.
If this were an 80s film, you guys would be the ones wearing the black leather jackets in an alleyway.
Sure, why not?
Oh, it's pretty cool. I don't think I've heard a Wormhole CEO speak in terms of like, we'll do our best. We're going to learn from this. I've been on Praise Bob once or twice and stuff, and that place it's very noisy, right?
It's interesting.
Yeah. But well, good luck this weekend, Cyrus. Ash, do you have one more question or comment?
I was just going to argue that wormholers are kind of more predilected to just roll with the punches than the average Eve player. I would argue probably. Most of the time when you move into wormhole space, you understand that what you're moving in there is ephemeral, and that any operation is temporary. It's just a matter of how long is temporary.
And all of your actions are political. All of your actions.
Right, because
everything is political because it's such a small world that we live in.
And there's a certain amount of etiquette that goes on in Wormhole space, right? I think that's what Cyrus was just saying. Like some of the actions that they took were what gave offense, not necessarily the words they used.
Yes.
It's jailhouse rules.
All right. Well, Cyrus, once again, thank you, CEO of SYNDE. They are under attack in their wormhole. Expect to be evicted this Saturday. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
It's usually pronounced SYNDE, Matterall.
SYNDE, not SYNDE. Oh, yes, you're right. SYNDE. Okay, I'm going to move you out of the channel now. Oops, cut him off a little short. That was awesome. Thanks for thanks for whoever summoned him to come here. All right. So those are the 2 wormhole evictions that we talked about. We got a little bonus interview with the CEO of SYNDE, which was really cool. And now let's move on to, oh, by the way, thanks again, Tiberius, for that write-up. Really appreciate it.
Hey, no worries.
Triglavian attacks today in perimeter. This is unusual. Let's have a picture of that thread. There's a link here. This is the gate to, not sure, Erlene, it looks like.
I mean, I would call it noteworthy. I'm not sure if I'd call it unusual.
Explain that to us. Why are Triglavians?
I would argue that this is... Yeah, so a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, the Triglavians are back. And unfortunately, they've never gone. So this is actually a mechanic that's been playing out over the last several weeks and months. We've been telling people about this since pretty much the formation of Poshvin on this show even. But as our knowledge of it kind of increases, we have a better understanding of exactly what is happening. But now this is in a place that is really in everybody's face. So this is a very important segment for anyone who wishes to travel safely in New Eden, just broadly. So the way it works is any system that's within a certain range of a former a system that is now in Poshvin, right? So in October, 27 systems that were taken by the Triglavian Collective became the region collectively known as Poshvin. However, those solar systems are not physically gone from the universe, which means their light year distance to the solar systems around it are still the same. For example, if you use an extraction filament inside of Poshvin, you will appear in a solar system within 2.5 light years of that system in Poshvin. So that's a good way to be able to get out, and you can even control that in order to like get to Jita pretty reliably. For example, if you're able to navigate within Poshvin. But also there's the wormholes, and while there are wormholes in that connect to wormhole space and drone regions, which we talked about before, one of the most interesting is probably the ones that connect to other known space locations. Every Poshvin system can connect to any other system within a certain range. We think it's somewhere between 2.5 to 4 light years, depending on who you ask. And when that happens, the Edencom rats spawn inside of the Poshvin system, but Triglavian rats spawn out in the connecting system. And so the practical offshoot of this is that basically any system that's within, say, 4 AU of any system that is now in Poshvin can potentially have a pack of up to 15 Triglavian rats with scrams on up to battle cruisers for the scrams that is capable of roaming around to any structure, asteroid belt, Stargate, station, planet, and I think that's it. And so being in those systems is very dangerous. Now, it does tell you that there's a Triglavian wormhole in that system. So if you're trying to get into Poshvin, for example, that's pretty handy. And I know several people that are paying attention to the Triglavians kill boards in order to keep track of where these systems are. But just realize now that at any given time, anywhere, especially in Caldari space, because Caldari did very, very poorly during the Triglavian invasion. So the Trig did captured a lot of ground within Caldari space. So basically, most of Caldari HiSec is within range to be invaded by these Raznoborg squads. So let's talk about how to fix that.
How do we avoid this situation?
Yeah. So the good news is that this is super easy to opt out of. and I've tweeted a guide, but I'll just discuss it here. So effectively, you take a Vigil, which is a tier 1 Mimitar frigate that has a target painting range bonus, and you go to, like, say, Jita, and you get a Triglavian ingressing filament. So either an internal, a border, or a home system, and you jump in. Now, this may actually take several tries if you don't have any Triglavian standings at all, because you might end up getting a system that doesn't have the correct rats in it, in which case you can just extract out using extraction filament, suicide your clone, whatever you do to get out, and then try again. But eventually you're going to find rogue drones and or sleeper and drifter forces. And hopefully what you'll do is you'll find them fighting Triglavians and or Edencom. So these two AI will be fighting each other, and your job is to sit at about 200 off of them at your like maximum ranges and just start target painting only rogue drones and the sleepers and drifters. Do not aggress any Edencom or Triglavian forces. Then when they kill each other, you will get standings gains for assisting against sleepers or drifters. More appropriately, you will lose standings with the sleepers and the drifters and or the rogue drones for attacking them. And when you lose standings with them, you will gain standings with both Edencom and the convocation of Triglav. So if you've never done anything with invasions, your standings are completely neutral. So you've never fired at either side, and you do this, you can literally just jump into Poshman once, target painter one thing, let them kill it, and then get the standings difference, and then no invasion rat will shoot at you pretty much anywhere, except for the trig that like to aggress people in Poshman regardless of standings every once in a while. But yeah, like if you're a hauler, this is something that I would seriously consider doing. It takes like 10 to 30 minutes. It's a one-time deal. Just make it so you don't have to worry about fortresses. You don't have to worry about minor victories. You don't have to worry about Rise and Award packs. Just get positive standings with both and let other people die.
Okay, so that's so let's break that down just a little bit, because that was kind of thorough. But the high level of it is get into Poshvin and target paint to get credit for the kill to lower your standing with the enemies of Triglavians and Edencom. You can do both at the same time, which means it makes you safe in both situations, whether you're crossing the path of Edencom or crossing the path of Triglavians. And you will need that if you're a hauler, because at any time now on the map you can get surprised and destroyed, as this guy was destroyed, this freighter here, by NPCs. And I don't know if they pod you, but I did see on that last they actually do pod you, as you can see here. There's little bodies floating in space. You see those little, I don't know if I can get closer, these little corpses in space. So the plugins go too.
So the secret to why this works is that both Edencom and the Triglavian Collective both don't like the rogue drones or drifters. So if you exclusively attack only those, then when you lose standings with the drifters and the rogue drones, then you will gain standings with both Edencom and Trig. It is important to note that this does not affect any of the rogue drones or drifters outside of Poshvin. This does not include sleeper or drifter hives. This is not rogue drone, drone land stuff. This is not the exploit, most notably. That was fixed very quickly. This is a legit gameplay, and it seems intended that players should be able to get standings with both. I've gotten it confirmed that the fact that both Edencom and the Triglavian Collective are negative with those entities, and therefore you can gain positive standings with both through this method, is valid gameplay.
Thank you for that. Okay, so that happened today. Pretty interesting. Next thing, real quick, I was wondering if Strata, do you want to talk about your ordeal with your corp situation, or do you want to skip that?
Just a funny another PSA, which is when to be careful about using multiple comms, even if one of the comms may seem not in any way dangerous towards your corporation, but it could be perceived that you may be a spy. So I accidentally was on the talking in station comms and heard somebody talking on talking in stations and responded in kind to my corporation and my alliance in their TeamSpeak. And I quickly found myself without a corporation because I was assumed to be a spy. So that's a little public service announcement. I'm hoping it's going to get resolved, but it's one of these better safe than sorry for a lot of these alliances.
I feel bad. I feel bad, but you can join our group. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Sorry.
Done that a few
He's not a
times.
spy. He was just helping us out and talking to us. All right.
Convocation of Empyreans is recording, and we don't care if you're a spy.
All right, let's go to. Let's go. Go ahead.
Usually, when I've done that, enough of the people in the channels with me were dual comms a lot that it's understandable.
Well, that's Horde Space. This is something that didn't show up on the patch notes today, or did it? Yes, right here. They added it later, so it wasn't something that was initially put out there. I don't know if that was an accident or if that was some kind of a stealth move, but here it is. This is a balance change that happened yesterday. Increase the average drop rates for Triglavian sublight telemeter.
My bet is that this is not. This was just an accident. Because this is just a very easy like database change or whatever it is that they do, and it just might not have made it into the patch notes. And the ironic thing is that like the loot that gets out of this sort of content gets hounded or watched so closely that every day I'd have people coming in being like, I think my what is it? Emerging Conduits loot got nerfed / buffed because my random loot today is so much higher / lower than yesterday's. So it's good that they actually put it in the patch notes. So ladies and gentlemen, Emergent Conduits loot got buffed today. Congratulations.
All right. Moving on to the next thing. This is something that keeps coming up and we can't seem to figure out. We thought we had a handle on it, but this rumor came up again on Reddit today as it says CCP reintroduces normal ore to moons. And here's the evidence of it. You can see there's some ochre in there and scordite, and along with the moon minerals, you see some regular ores. And so this has people scratching their heads. Is this actually dialing back some of the changes they made because they were too severe, or is this the test center not actually getting updated? So this has the old statistics, which is what we've heard from CSM.
Yeah, according to Kenneth Feld, they just never removed those ores from moons on the test server. I personally think that they'll eventually be returning to moons, but I don't know the circumstances of that, how that will happen.
All right.
I suspect that if anything, they would like to move away from like if they can make Singularity have different data than Tranquility about what is actually in moons, that would probably be really good for CCP. So, I wouldn't read too much into it yet until we hear something official.
So if you're looking at these threads and you're seeing that moon ore is coming back, or regular ore inside the moon mixtures is coming back, take it with some caution. We don't know if that's true. It looks like it's not. So this is all test server stuff anyway. It's not on Tranquility. The thing is that if CCP were to make a move on ore, there would be no notification of it. It's that's one of the things that would affect the economy, and all the stuff that affects the economy, they don't really give you a lot of warning on that kind of stuff. Unless it's a really big disruption. Okay. I think that's it. Except we have one last thing here. This is Ashtarathi's announcement. This is Time Glider for EVE Online. And why don't you explain what that is, Ashtarathi?
Yeah, so back in 2015, around the time of Tweet Fleet Slack, for those of you who can think about that, there was a project that was created called the EVE Timeline Project. And I wish I could list all the people that were part of it, but I can't remember them all, so I'm just going to say thank you to everybody who participated, small and big. But it was announced on Twitter yesterday, or a few weeks ago, that because Time Glider, which is the tool that they were using to host that, is being shuttered, so too is the Eve timeline going to be shuttered. However, the original creator exported all the data as a CSV and dropped it into a giant spreadsheet for us. That would be, I can say his name. It was Saftsuze, Saftsuze. And he dropped it all into a spreadsheet. I took his spreadsheet and cleaned it up a little bit. And so now there's a 2,300 entry spreadsheet of every single historical data that we know, or historical point in Eve lore that we know of. Congratulations, with links. It's great. We'll be. I plan on continuing to hopefully maintain and extrapolate off of this data, but I really, really like it. And the cool thing about it is it's totally searchable. So you can just like Control F and search for specific names and see whether or not some entity has appeared anywhere. So this is like a combination of like things from world news. This is fiction portals. This is hundreds and hundreds of hours of work from various different people in in the history in the last 5 years or so, just chronicling and documenting all of the various different Eve lore stuff. So whenever anybody tells you that there's nothing going on in Eve lore, link them this.
It's definitely worth keeping track of and preserving.
Well, especially since like stuff that happened 5-10 years ago is still relevant today, and like the clues to what's happening is what happened. It's incredibly valuable to do that, and so it's actually part of what makes it. Eve is almost like a Dark Soulsian in the way it tells its story. It's very environmental storytelling. So, a headline today will link to headlines that have been happening for the last, year, which links to stuff that has been happening for the last 10 years, different events and chronicles and such. And if you stay up to date with all of that, then you won't like get killed on Perimeter Gate and suddenly be like, why are the Triglavians back? I'm just kidding.